Hello, Riven mains and Yasuo mains alike. I am the Nightwing Way of Life Esports coming at you guys with another League of Legends video. Now today we are going to be talking about the League of Legends super team that failed in the year of 2019. Our good buddies Misfits. Yes, Misfits. It almost feels like every time Misfits does something, they're just branded as Misfits, because that is really how this year felt for being a Misfits fan. Now, luckily for me, you always got to be part of that G2 army, and we're gonna make sure we clap TL at Worlds and bring them down a peg for taking out my boys Cloud9 in the finals. But nonetheless, let's talk about Misfits. Now, let's backtrack all the way back into the off season when this roster was formed. So let's backtrack it even a little bit more further than that. Let's talk about their summer 2018 after they lost to Splice in the regional qualifier back when the EULCS was literally called the EULCS before it got rebranded into the LEC. Now, with that being said, remember, that was the roster with Alphari, Mickey X, Senkux, Max Lore, and you had Hansama. The roster just was abysmal after a while. That's while starting 9-0 in the summer split. People said that they should have went to Rift Rivals, as how badly they wanted that Misfits lineup to go to Rift Rivals for, Rift Rivals of that year, obviously. They later on started doing horrible. They beat G2, who was also undefeated at that current point in time. Then they took a loss to Fnatic. That one Fnatic loss tanked them. I think people playing the game around that time in the LCS for the EULCS figured out how to beat them. Remember, they were coming off of, being super hotly contested in scrims before that split specifically started, and this is when the mages came to the bot lane. They went 9-0. People really got behind the team. Then right after that, people figured them out. Basically, they went like 2-7 off the back end of the split. They ended up making quarterfinals. It was weird because that Misfits roster 3-0 G2. This is when G2 had Yarn and Wadid. I've been very outspoken that I did not like them on the team. I thought they was a complete waste of a year for that specifically. I still love G2 as always. I love G2 as much as Cloud9, but I'm not gonna ever let them live that down. Yarn and Wadid were terrible for G2. So right after that, Misfits end up facing Vitality in that third place match for better seeding in the regional qualifier. They even lose that match to Vitality. Then later on, with Fnatic winning over Schalke, that prompted a Vitality to go to Worlds, obviously. Then, right after that, they lose to Splice, and then Misfits get this big overhaul in their roster. The only people that they keep are Hansama. Max Lore already had wanted to go back to basically other teams, but he probably saw the roster of players that were coming on and decided to say, remember, Soaz just came off of the World Finals. He played a really good year in Fnatic. I think he played his best year of League of Legends in that Fnatic roster, and he's been on Fnatic most of his career anyway, so to think that he couldn't not do this on Misfits would be absolutely ridiculous. But looking at the other players, though, you have to kind of understand, where did it all go wrong? I don't really understand myself personally. When this roster was formed, a lot of people had it this way. It was G2, Fnatic, Misfits. That's how I had it in the spring. I think JTH had it Fnatic, G2, and Misfits. The reason why I said that G2 would still be better than them is because they have the stronger top side. I mean, that should have just gone without question. The only questionable thing would be Perks and Mickey X. Mickey X obviously knows how to play against Misfits because he was on the roster before. I think people really actually misunderstand that if a player plays for your roster, then goes to another roster, can't that player just specifically tell his new team what they're going to do what they go for early game, what they actually try to do in game in general. And I feel like that's another problem that I just couldn't let go when I was power ranking the teams in spring. So spring starts, everybody is hyped on this roster. They think it's the next EU super team that could be obviously just as good as the Alliance squad that Froggen had created back in the day when Alliance won the split in 2014 summer. This roster starts out 4-2, pretty respectable. Then it comes to, well, because at 4-2, that means you played what, around like what, 4 weeks of play is around where you're going like 4-2, right? Right after like I think week 3 or 4, they just started doing really bad. Like, I don't even understand what happened actually. The basic point is that they started doing things and compositions that really were never the player's strengths. I felt like there was never a leader on the team. I never felt like there was a player on the team that knew where his sense of direction was. Maxlore heavily underperformed. Soaz, I think, was their best performing member even when they started falling apart. Febvin, I think, was really overrated. I think people were really living off this guy's name for a while. I still think to this day that Febvin was very overrated when he was on the undefeated Fnatic roster. That's just how I always saw it. Like, he's never been good since then. I mean, yeah, he had the H2K split where he played in that. He was okay on clutch to a certain extent, but I think that a lot of these players were basically living off their name for a while and just had not been performing well to expectations going into the split. Remember, going into this 2019 spring split, Maxwell hadn't been performing good anyway. So it was I was already under the impression in my own brain from looking at gameplay he wasn't going to play good anyway. I don't know how people had him as some top 3 jungler. You're out of your mind. People need to really start analyzing games before they start throwing names out there just to feel like they understand the game. And the same thing goes with Febvin. Hansama, I always felt like he was good. I felt like he was the one guy they should have kept. They did. He didn't play that well coming into the spring split. Gorilla, I think, was the big name. A lot of people were like, okay, these guys are good to a certain extent, but Gorilla puts them over the top. It's the whole infrastructure of importing Koreans, getting them into, basically, the culture of the Western scene. I didn't really think Misfits was that per se team to do that. We know that they brought on Pumandu for Gorilla as well, so that way he could have someone to obviously talk to and theorize and strategize with. And I think that wasn't just good enough, because I felt like if the team was performing a lot better and doing better, I felt like he would have just stayed with the roster in general. Now looking back in hindsight, that him and Soaz and Febvin, well, Febvin was still there. You still randomly see him in those videos, which is really kind of awkward. But Soaz and Maxlore and Gorilla are definitely gone at this current point in time before I even talk about the summer split. So looking at that, they just perform like severe garbage in the spring split. They finish 8th. They get that little lucky win against G2. People are like, oh my god, they were coming back to form. No, they weren't. G2 threw the game. Stop making some trash narrative just to make them look better. People always do that. It makes no sense why they do it. Oh, this team is coming back to form in week 8 of the split. Yeah, oh yeah, coming back to form in week 8. Yeah, I'm glad that's gonna mean anything when the next week it's over and you're out of playoffs. Yeah, real good last few weeks they had. So they go 8th place. They finish like I think 8-10 at the end of the day. Abysmal record. They choose to run it all back. Hansama said him and I think was it Soaz or Maxlore went to Korean boot camp. The other guys decided to take this more time off than the others. They come back, and this is while coping with the fact that they had a coaching change. Husani Moose came back during the spring. They replaced Jesus. Jesus went to go coach the academy team. Moose was coaching the team for the majority of the summer split. It's still not good. They look abysmal. No leader. Nobody's engaging properly. No one's shot calling properly. All these players look like they're chickens running around with their heads cut off. Then here's the freaking messed up thing they do. So they're Misfits. What would be considered the academy team for them. The academy team literally wins the Ultra Liga, which is like the academy team for EU, right? So they win that. They weren't supposed to win it anyway. There were much better teams than them. The Rogue roster, the Splice Viper roster, you name it. There were so many better teams than them. So the Misfits Ultra Elite Academy team wins. They get Kire from 1907 Fenerbahce because they saw how good him and Ruin had performed. Ruin went to CLG. Kire went to Misfits. Then after that, they bring up Kire for 1 week of the roster. They actually go, I think they go 2-0 actually. I remember they either go 1-1 or 2-0. And then they started switching between him and Maxlore. I don't know why. I think Kire, for that specific time, performed a lot better than Maxlore. I don't know why. He had those amazing games. And what a way to destroy your player's confidence, right? Yeah, you go 12-0 and you facilitate the game and you get us to do something. Hey, you're out the next 2 games. Real smart decision there, right? Right. Yeah. People are freaking stupid, man. All right, so after that, they switch out Febivin, who had been massively just overrated to high hell. I don't even know how he was still playing at that current point in time. Leader had shown that he was really good in the academy scene. They bring up Leader. The problem with Leader is that he doesn't really have a problem, though. I don't feel like Leader is bad. I feel like Leader is actually really good. Leader gets flack thrown at him, not by me, and I think a lot of people understand Leader's good. The issue why Leader gets flack is the people who are watching the games. People are saying he's garbage. People are saying he doesn't know what he's doing. Everything Leader's doing on a more competent, cohesive team works out way better. I'm just saying that. He's not a bad player. He looks bad in comparison to everything that happened around him. Then after that, Gorilla, Soaz, and Maxwell all leave. They're like, we're done. We're not getting benched for academy players. We're much better than that. They're like, okay, guys, I'm peacing out. I'm done. Then after that, they bring up the entire academy roster and taking Hansama out, who actually didn't leave, and put him on the academy team. Their 80 carry Neon that was on the academy team, I saw him before on Unicorns of Love. I didn't think he was good at all. This was when he replaced Samex because Samex was sick on Unicorns of Love. I didn't think he was good at all. I thought Neon was very underwhelming. If you're going to run that roster, why not just keep Hansama there and then just obviously run Neon with their new academy support. I understand why they did it because obviously Neon had synergy with their new support, and they get this new academy team in there. Leader gets to play with his boys again. You're obviously playing with Dan and Hiva. Dan's actually pretty good. I like what I'm seeing out of him. I would like to see more out of him. I like to see that he can be what he was, and I like to see that he showed that in the little bit of time that he did, and that shows competency. That shows that he is a good player to a certain extent. You have the new jungler in Kire. I don't know if he's really going to stick with the team because he's bounced around between so many teams. It's a wonder if he stays with them to the next year. I don't think he's really ever stayed with somebody for like that long, obviously. Right after that, you obviously have the mid lane with Leader. I think Leader's good. I know people are going to be like, you're crazy. Leader sucks. No, he does not suck. Whatever he was doing would have worked in a top tier team. If you swap out, who was a mid laner that was actually playing bad this split? Nuke Duck didn't play well. That's, let me see. Who are the other top? If you had taken Leader and you put him in Schalke or in Vitality, that would have been a much better playoff contending team. That's just my own personal opinion about it. Hansama coming back was like good for them in some aspects. He had a few pop-off games when he came back. I feel like Hansama's been great. He had a few bad games, both splits, so he's been okay overall. Not that super. I feel like he could be still that superstar ADC that we know he can be. Hiva, I think he has some potential there. I want to see more out of him though. It's okay. He got kind of thrown into the deep end. What I didn't like about Misfits is that they threw every single player they had into the deep end. Oh, might as well we'll just throw fucking shit at the wall and see if it sticks there, right? Yeah. How about we take Kire, who was literally popping off, giving us exactly what we want in our compositions. Like, we was the exact thing they needed. Oh, you who went 2-0, who was popping off and giving us our team what he want. Oh, freak you. How about you go sit down and let this other jungler come in who was just completely garbage. All 3 splits in a row, this guy was bad. What? Hey, logic, right? Pure good logic, right? Then you take Febivin, who's been literally oh my god, he's the mid lane version of Sneaky at this point. Like, he just sits there and just I'll give Sneaky credit where credit is due. At least he tries. At least he's gonna die in team fights. You know, he's gonna put out some damage. Sneaky at least tries. What has he done? Febin has done nothing. Sits there and does nothing. And I get certain games he's not the carry. He's not supposed to do anything. I understand. I'm not a moron. But there's games where he's the carry. You give him the pick of the carry, and he just sits there and does nothing. At a certain point, if you're telling me Soaz is going to carry more games than Fevin, that's where you have a problem at. But Soaz, I think Soaz played great. I feel really bad for him that he got kind of cucked this way from leaving Fnatic. I would have preferred if he just stayed on Fnatic. But you know how he's been on Fnatic for a very long time. He probably wants to, experience other rosters. He's always did this anyway. So it's just, how does this year get salvaged by Misfits? It doesn't. You just go into 2020 with a better outlook on what went wrong. Was it the super team angle? I'm not really too sure about that. Even if the super teams don't work out per se, because people expect super teams to do great things and win splits, right? This team, if coached right, if the structure was there correctly, and the atmosphere was there, the scrim culture was there, because it wasn't the scrim culture, because we know EU solo queue is really good, because none of the players at one point ever complained about solo queue. The issue with the team is that if they, I feel like, had made playoffs in spring, their mindset would have been a lot differently. I feel like in playoffs, they had a chance, probably if they did make it and they fixed all their issues, to make at least top 4. The issue with that is that the coaching structure sucked, infrastructure sucked, people were just throwing in players left and right, just basically throwing shit at the wall to basically see whatever worked. It didn't work. They screwed over everybody's career. You telling me Gorilla's not going to want to play in any country not Korea or China at this point. He went back to Korea. I don't know what team he's going to play on for next year. I mean, Gorilla would be a massive upgrade in a lot of those support positions in the LCK. But that's a video for another day, obviously. Yeah, I just can't ever respect the org like this. I'm just not going to do it. I like my orgs, my Cloud9s and my G2s. I'm cool with that. Obviously, I'll rock some Fnatic jersey that I have. It was on sale, that's why I bought it. But I obviously like getting my new esport jersey and stuff like that. Can't wait to get the G2 2019 player jersey. That looks fresh. But yeah, guys, I'm not trying to be mean here, but I am. These are emotions that I've had built up with this whole org for a very long time. But there's other things I could say from their past, but they were a new org in EU. I don't think it's very, very fair to kind of criticize them for stuff that they didn't know going in, being a new org, because that's just not fair to them personally. Everybody learns about orgs and getting better players and signing contracts and building infrastructure and having good coaches. I feel like they're it just had to have been, maybe, I don't know personally, but it really did feel like it was the players just not meshing well. Maybe they did have a great coaching staff. Maybe it was just the players not meshing well. I kind of had this idea it wouldn't mesh well anyway. Knowing Soaz and Fevin's personality, you can kind of tell it's not going to mesh very well. You can look at players, and you can look at players' rosters built, and knowing for a fact their personalities will not clash properly together. It's just how it's going to work. They had so many different ideas how to play the game that none of it paired out. They were constantly losing. Gorilla was average at best. Hansama was average most of this year. Fevbin, statue, literally a statue. Maxlor was he inted every single game he played. Even the ones they won, he inted in. Don't even know how that's possible. Soaz was their best player, and then they screwed over their academy team. They screwed over most of everybody's career in this moment. And even if you're looking at Hansama, people are gonna go like, "Why did you stay with this org, knowing how they treated all these players? Like, why?" And they're gonna ask him that if he ever goes to another team, if Misfits fail then next year. For Hansama, he just might be the franchise man, and they might just keep him forever. Obviously, that could be the case, but I digress. We'll never actually know. I'll see you guys later. Like, comment, subscribe. Most of all, enjoy. Leave your opinions and thoughts in the comment section below. I'm the Nightwing. Wave Off Esports is signing out. Peace. I can't wait to preview G2 versus Fnatic, the match of the century, coming up this week. All right, see you guys later. Bye.
Hi there, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more stuff.
Yeah, thank you.